Inspiring women leaders. Today we're going to talk about one of the leaders that we love, and that's Michelle Obama. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a different spin, my own feeling about some of the things that amazed me about this woman. I mean, we all know she was the first black first lady. That had to have been a pretty big challenge. I didn't stand in her shoes, but I know a few things about her just by reading her books and listening to her speak. And that is, she is a brilliant woman. She's a kind woman. She's also quite funny. She often makes me smile. And to be a person who is educated, who is amazing and compassionate and kind like she is, must have been very difficult to walk into a role where you're raising two children and you have to set a certain precedence of who you are to the world, which maybe doesn't really honor 100% of who you are, because people are going to judge you. So are you ever in like a place where you're going, well, I'm not sure if I'm able to do that because, my friends might think I'm nuts. My family might think I'm damn crazy. But this is a woman who became the first black first lady, and the whole world was watching her. Not just her friends, not just her family, not just her neighbors, the whole world. And there were so many things that she needed to do to try to fit in, to try to set a standard as a first lady that would be loved and respected. And I'm here to say, I think she pulled it off pretty dang well. But in the beginning, it wasn't that easy. So here's a few things that I think are really intriguing. They're small little things. One thing is, you might not know this, but Michelle Obama was born in the south side of Chicago. Do you know about Chicago at all? There's many different neighborhoods. The south side of Chicago really is a nice area of Chicago. It's really a wonderful place to be raised. Really, it was a beautiful middle-class neighborhood. But guess what? Do you know what redlining is? Have you ever heard that terminology? I have a 20-year career from the mortgage business. In my last position, I was at JP Morgan Chase as an assistant vice president. So I kind of know some of the back end stuff about the mortgage business. And let me tell you what redlining is. It used to be, now Michelle was born in the 80s, so she lived, not in the 80s, she was born in the 60s like I am, like I was. And she lived there, throughout, of course, her childhood years and her school years. In the neighborhood that she lived in, there was something called redlining, which is a horrific old practice that banks did or lenders did to make sure that they, quote unquote, were protecting themselves. And that is, if there was a predominantly black or Latino or Filipino, you see where I'm going here, neighborhood, and you look on a map of where they land, there'd be a red line around this area that you lived in. And that would be, we aren't going to lend in that area. Which was just blatantly a way to keep people from being able to move forward. It was blatantly discrimination. And thank God there have been laws that have been passed that can't happen anymore. Thank God. But in the day that she lived in this beautiful, nice little neighborhood, and she was raised on the south side of Chicago, this was a red line district. So this was a district where banks didn't want to lend. Pretty sad, isn't it? It's sad, and then it's also amazing that here this little girl was raised in this neighborhood where banks discriminated against her neighbors, her family members, maybe, other people that lived in the neighborhood. And at the same time, she became the very first lady of this magical country that we live in. I love that story because that tells me something about you can start here, but you can go here, because where you start isn't the most important part of the story, right? So the other thing about Michelle that I find really intriguing and interesting, and I could go through the degrees that she has, and I could go through a lot of the things about her that we already know. But there's a few things about her that for me drove home, wow, this lady is strong. And one of the things is such a simple thing, something that we don't think about. I don't think about this, and that is, how do I do my hair in the morning? Well, I'm going to be quite honest with you. Half the time I don't do my hair at all. I'm like, this is how I woke up. This is what you're going to get. Sometimes, if I'm doing something very special, I will do a hairdo, we'll call it. But Michelle, because she was a black woman, and she was in the White House, and she had to portray something that would be accepted. How sad is this? She had to put on a mask to be accepted. And in this case, it wasn't a mask. She had to straighten her hair. She had to do her hair in a way that was more accepted in this country and around the world when it came to black women. Can you imagine what that would be like? You know what it makes me think? It makes me think this one thing, and that is, what is it that we're doing to try to be accepted? And let me just share this with you. Michelle, if you're watching this video, I love you, girl, because having my hair straightened every single day would be absolute hell. And I appreciate that you did that to not only fit in, but that you did that to hold up a beautiful standard in the White House that you thought was important at the time. And you know what? You don't have to do it anymore. You know that. Anyway, I just am thinking about her in this way of, what is it about her that can relate to us, and we can ask that question, what is it we're doing in our lives where we're constantly straightening our hair and not showing the true face of the beautiful self that we are? Where is it that we're worried about what others think? I love that part of Michelle's story because it really makes me dig deep. And I ask myself that question. Where is it that I'm worrying about what other people think about me? Do you ever ask yourself that question? The other thing about Michelle and her amazing husband, Barack, is that there was a time when there was a fist bump. We all do fist bumps, right? I'm like all into the fist bump thing. I think they're fantastic. Especially with my younger children. But here's the deal. When they did this, and I just want you to think the simplicity of a fist bump, a way of greeting somebody, a way of being kind of kind, a way of saying, you did good, or I like you, or nice to meet you. Something very simple. Just a little bit of a celebration, I call it. They were called things like, don't be in shock here. Words were related to them like terrorist. That's the word I'm trying to get to. Jab. That they were too down home. That they didn't belong in the White House because they did a fist bump. So I want you to think about, where are you looking at every action that you do and worrying about what others think of you? Because here's Michelle in this situation being highly judged. I mean, all sorts of things are going on. There's this financial meltdown going on, and the news programs are fist bump, fist bump, fist bump. Can you even imagine It must have been like being in outer space. That's all I can say, to be involved in that story on a personal level. But where are you? Where are you not being yourself? Because here's what I have to say. Whether it's a fist bump, whether it's a high five, whether you're skipping down the street or strolling slowly, whatever it is that you're doing in your walk of your life, just be who you are and don't allow yourself to listen to the naysayers. One thing about Michelle Obama is she don't listen to the naysayers. She is a spark of light. She has this really super great saying that I want to read to you here, and it says, it is never make decisions based on fear. Make decision based on hope and possibility. So today, may you take some of the things that we learned about Michelle today and think about hope and possibility, and let go of any fear that you have of becoming your own leader. If you like this video, subscribe at the bottom, or in the notes down below is my webpage. Come on over and get supported and some love, some self-love, leader love. And you know how this ends. You are loved.